Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's sales user webinar on WeSuite, the document editor, creating standout proposals. My name is Stephen Nasty, and I'm instructing us through today in flying solo. Some of the main points we're going to be talking about today are how to copy existing scopes of work for proposal revisions, utilizing the document editor for their specific features to enhance your output of your proposals, inserting images and tables to your scopes of work, and lastly, to configure default page and pricing selections in my settings. We're also going to be throwing in some other tips and tricks in there as well. Uh, so as always, we want to get the most out of your time today. So if you have any questions throughout any time of the webinar, don't be shy. Just type them right into the chat, even if it's just because we've gone too fast or if you want to see or hear something again. I am solo today. Usually we have a couple people from the WeSuite side of things just to help with questions. So there might just be a little bit of a delay getting back to your questions, but I'll try to get to as many as I possibly can. So we have a lot to get to, so let's jump right into it. Okay, so as we were talking about in the description, we're going to be spending really strictly all of our time today within WeEstimate. And what I had done is I had prepared a job ahead of time and a couple of jobs previously just to really kind of speed up the process and just kind of focus on the main points of interest here. So we have a couple different quotes here that we're going to be utilizing today. This most recent quote, this 22074, that's going to really be the basis of today's webinar. And we're also going to be using some of the older proposals just to demonstrate how to copy existing scopes of work, contracts, things along those lines. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So we have this quote right here. And just as a nice little tip, if you single click the job and you go ahead and click on the button up top, it'll go ahead and just open up the document. So you don't have to actually be within the job. As long as the system has it highlighted, you can go right in and start working. So with this, we have our quote packages within the document screen. For those of you that aren't familiar, this is the document and proposal interface. Some things to note. In the very middle of the screen here, we have our quote packages. We throw the term quote package or revisions around a lot. So if you hear quote package, it's revision. And if you hear revision, it's quote package. They're pretty much interchangeable with us. Every job will contain a baseline quote package. So we have at a baseline, it'll have a quote package with the name of the job within it. So that's why you're seeing this new site when it was created and was last updated. You also have the ability to add a quote package as well by clicking on this yellow button, Add Quote Package. So one of the things I got a lot when I was in support was, if you're trying to figure out, some issues with generating your document, or, maybe you're getting an error when you're trying to generate, or if it doesn't look the kind of what you're used to, if you click on this little drop down tab right here, and this might not be for every single one of you guys, but for most, if you hit this drop down, you might see a couple different options there. So we're using something called the Blue Template Core 2.0. Basically, what that means is that's tied into our new doc editor. So that is kind of something that we created in-house, where it's not really so new anymore, probably a couple years old at this point. But with the new doc editor, the proposal can contain things like pictures, graphs, charts, a lot of just interactive things and elements within it. We also have something in support, something called Crystal. So if you hear Crystal documents ever thrown around, that's one of our two document formats. The Crystal documents is something that's a little bit of an older structure. It still works beautifully, but it can't really support a lot of the graphical things that the doc editor can, like pictures, graphs, charts, things like that. Crystal is really more of a lighter and smaller weight document, whereas the doc editor gives you a bigger proposal. So if you're not too sure what you should be using right here, I would say definitely contact your system admin. Usually you'll see something called default. I would say 9 times out of 10, you'll see something called default, and then you might see something like a new proposal or whatever it may be. So I would always say start with this first, make sure you're using the right template. And then from this screen here, you have what would you like to name your quote document, and if you're using a cover page, what's the project title? So the difference here, this is your revision name. This is internal facing. This is what your customer sees. So if you want to name this, new site revision 1, you can just keep this new site. This is internal. This goes out to the customer. We also have this ability to create a copy of an existing quote. So with this, we have a couple quotes here. We have the new site that was sent out, and we have the ability to select kind of just different copies of previously. What this does is this gives you the option to basically migrate over any sort of checkboxes or any sort of scopes of work that you may have sent in the past. So we'll click on that and just reset it. Now, the reason that might be to your advantage is we have something here that we had sent out a co-package before. So this was created on 5/15, it was sent on 5/15. Basically what this means is if you ever see something in this bucket that says co-packages sent, that just means it was sent out to the customer or it was flagged as sent. So we're not really going to get too much into that today. But if you're, let's say you were working with a customer a couple months ago and you're reopening up this proposal, it might be wise to make a copy of that previously sent out proposal so you can integrate with your scope of work that you had sent out, any program options, things along those lines. When you make a copy, all of these checkboxes that were already selected will pre-populate as well. Now, to kind of take that a step further, to kind of transition over here, that's kind of the middle portion. On your right-hand side, these are your quote options. So you have quote options, contract options, and then contractor options. So the quote options is your main proposal. These are all your checkboxes that I'm sure you're very familiar with. These are your checkboxes that control what you're seeing and what the customer sees on your proposal document. Contract, similar, but just more so on the vein of your documents or your contracts. So if you were to drag one over, like change order and select it, you'll see, you have your checkboxes that are unique towards your contract in that specific contract. And the contractor options, these are for users that have the contractor module. If you have the contractor module, what our document team will do is they will create a document specific to your contractor. And you'll have basically like a one-to-one that you're seeing in your main proposal, but you'll have a separate proposal for your contractors. So it might be a good time to check out, different sorts of checkboxes and things along those lines for that. Now, one of the things I always like to talk about here is you have a couple different options you can do with templates. If you are on the admin side of things, you're able to set default options and values across the board for all of your users. It's not necessarily a template that they would select from the dropdown, but it would be you create a job, you have your default scope of work, and automatically these things are toggle on or off, and that's across the board. That's the program options, but I'm not really going to go too much into that today because this is more on the user level, but just keep that in the back of your mind if you have admin rights. The other option you can do with this is you can create something called a template. So if we have this little drop down, we see that I have a bunch of different templates here. If we click on this template maintenance button and we go ahead and click on new, you'll go ahead and name your template. So we'll just call this new cache template 2024. You'll have to select your document template type. So you'll see things here like your proposals, your contracts, different types like that. By default, it'll be highlighted for the proposal doc you have. So Blue Core template 2.0. And then once you click on OK, you'll see here that you have all of your document pages and your document items. So with this, these are all of the checkboxes that your document has at a baseline level. So what's nice about this is this, and it's a little tedious, but this is very much a set it and forget it type of thing, where if you're going through here, you can say, okay, I want to have my cover page, my cover letter, about us, our services, clarifications and assumptions, whatever it may be. So we'll just go ahead and select pretty much all of those. And then you're basically building out your proposal document. So, you want to show your equipment, you want to display, your folder header, how you want to sort it. And again, what I'm showing you right now might be different for your proposal. Every single proposal document is different. So if you're kind of following along when I'm doing this and you're not seeing some of the checkboxes that I have, don't be alarmed. It's really every customer has a very different proposal. A lot of these are have overlapping elements. Like you'll see the chargeable items, the wire, the labor, things like that, materials. So we'll just go ahead and just highlight a couple of more of these guys. and then we'll get into the actual kind of scopes of work and things like that. So just about done. We'll go ahead and select a couple more. Free tax on total. No, we don't want that. Some clarifications and assumptions. We'll put that as well. Perfect. Okay. Changes have been saved. You can close out of this. And then we'll go ahead and find our new Clash template 2024. And what that'll do is that it'll automatically append all the checkboxes you had currently selected, and it'll be your template. Now, what's nice about this is if you're ever in a time where you're like, you know what, I like this template, but for this particular client, I need to change my clarification and assumptions, add a couple things here. As soon as I selected this, the template type changed from my the Cache 2024 template to custom. So if you make any changes to it, it'll still keep everything that's already selected, but it'll just say, hey, you're deviating off the template now. So you're basically creating this a custom template. So you can still make changes to this. You can add or remove whatever you want to do. It'll keep all those checkboxes. And why this is nice is you set it once, you have your template, you have your baseline, you don't have to worry about it moving forward. Okay. So that's kind of the first part. Now I want to kind of keep the theme going with templates. And if you guys have any questions throughout any of this point, please let me know. I have the question chat open, so if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and type them in, and I'll answer them as quickly as I can. So scrolling through the top, we do have our subsets of the document of the proposal. So we have scope of work, we have cover letter. We also have some other guys here like email. We have a custom email template, custom text items, where you can basically kind of coordinate your document to say, in the event of, having this kind of language pre-populated with a drop down of this information. So custom text items, I would say they're really not used widely, but it is there as an additional layer of an additional trigger to populate some information if you need it. Your terms and conditions, these can go either way. So we have two different types of terms and conditions that we can do. First and foremost, we have the ones that are hard-coded in, where the hard-coded in terms and conditions, you flip the switch for your checkbox and it turns the terms and conditions on. Or we have the ability to load in terms and conditions into your system, and you can go ahead and make the changes as you wish. With terms and conditions, if you're going the route that they're plugged into your system, we have the ability to password protect it as well. So, if you can limit it to, say, a group, so you can say, I want just the presidents or the admins or sales managers to be able to edit terms and conditions, and then every time they make a save, they have to enter in a password. So again, it's just that layer of just security with terms and conditions. It's legal information, so we want to make that as bulletproof as possible. So the terms and conditions are a group right. So if you want to restrict who has access to that, you can. But I've seen it go either way. I've seen some of our users have them kind of broken out here, and then I've seen others just hard code them in. It's just really your personal preference. So with scope of work, we'll start here. If you're familiar with Word, which I'm assuming pretty much everybody here has used Word at least a couple times, this interface is going to be very familiar to you. This was built off the Microsoft Word engine. So everything here is listed out, is like you would, if you were to open up Microsoft Word right now, everything here is pretty much identical. Really what you're going to be doing here is clicking on the template maintenance button. So first and foremost, you can free type in. So I have already a scope pre-assigned to my account, which I'll show you in a little bit how to do that. But I can go in here and I can free type if I really wanted to. Anytime I make a save, anytime I make a change, click on update document, it'll do a real-time save. But if you want to do an actual template itself, you would click on this little pencil here called template maintenance. And from here, you have a couple different options. So if you are using a template, let's say from the past, or you're just utilizing a template right now, you can copy and paste a template in. So you can just Control V it, right click, Control paste, whatever it may be. You can insert as well. So you can insert a table. So if you want to insert a graph or a chart, you can easily do that. You can insert pictures, whether they're inline or not. And you can also free type in. So this really is your cover page. This is your scope of work. This is however you want it to look. For me, what I did was I took a scope of work that I had kind of done in place, and just so you can see what the scope of work can contain, I put in here just a lot of inline pictures, floor plans, site photos, kind of just annotations, things like that, because I wanted you just to see what the doc editor can contain. In the past, there were a lot of size limits on files and data and things like that. With a new doc editor, there really isn't. The only thing I would say to keep in mind is the more stuff you put in, the longer the document generation process will take. It's not going to be broken or anything like that, but the more pictures you add, the bigger your document's going to be. The bigger your document, the longer the generation time. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. So when you're done with that, you can click on Save. If you're creating a brand new template, you would click on this little Add button, give it a name, and then click on Save. From this screen, you can also access the other areas within your document, or you can go ahead and just close out and select over to the next category. So same thing for cover letter, scope of work, cover letter. These are all very similar interfaces, the exact same actually. If I were to click on template maintenance, same concept. It will also be defaulted to cover letter, and I would select my cover letter, and I would go ahead and make any changes if I want to. Same concept. Click on Add, type in your cover letter name, click on OK, then click on Save. Yeah, so that was a good question. We've had docs get locked up over having too many large files in it. That is also correct. So with and I that was a little bit of a misspeak on my part. I have seen gargantuan files get locked down and throw some errors, but the times that I've seen it they've been really big, like really big proposal documents. So you have a lot more wiggle room. But if you're putting in a ton of HD photos and things like that, keep in mind that, like anything else, the more you kind of plug into it, the higher chance it has of, causing a break, kind of a lockdown or whatever it may be. So I've seen that happen. So that's a good point. Just keep that in the back of your mind. It supports a pretty big margin, but like anything else, the more you put into it, the higher chance it has of, causing an issue there. With cover letter here, you can support a headshot, pictures, icons, custom fonts, things like that. And the same concept here, you can go to Insert, Table, Picture, Inline Picture, Hyperlinks. So if you want to put in, any sort of, direct link for your email, direct link to your website, whatever it may be, you can. So when that's all done, really the important thing to do here, as I mentioned before, whenever you're making changes, make sure you're clicking on this little Update Document button, and that saves it in real time. Once you're done, go ahead and click on the Update the Generate Quote button. And this will spit out your document. So this is your proposal document, or really ours for testing purposes. Very simple stuff at the top. You can save this as Word. You can save it as a PDF. Or you can print it. These are also some that you control for the admins on the call. These are some things that you can control and limit for approvals and lock them down during any kind of change of statuses and things like that. So if you're doing an approval pre or post, you can strip away the ability to export and save as until the job is approved. Just so you know. So you can either scroll down manually, or you can click on this little green arrow just to go to the next page. So this is our page, kind of our cover page, about us, services, kind of just general information here. And then we have our investment summary, which is basically just our kind of bill of materials page. Scroll down, and then we have our purchase price. Now, one of the things I wanted to show, just because I feel like this webinar is going to be on the relatively short end of time, I did want to show something that did come up. That's come up a lot actually in a lot of my recent trainings and touch calls and things like that. I did want to show kind of the different types of options you can do on your estimate. This wasn't something that was listed, but I did want to talk about this as well, and then I'll get into some of the default stuff. Within your estimate, if you open up your job, if you click on all estimate items, you'll see all of your folders broken out. So this is a nice little area to go if you ever need to map your system types. So if you ever want to make your accounting team like you a lot, if you know your job type and your system type for the quotes, go ahead and select them here. Trust me, your accounting people will love you for this because it saves them some time when they're mapping this job over into Sedona or your accounting equivalent. What I really wanted to point out is this estimate option tab. So estimate option, not a lot of people know about this, but you have this little drop down arrow. If you click on this, you'll have the ability to either say outright sale, print out document, or exclude from sale. Basically what this means is outright sale gives it to you exactly how we saw. It's your default setting. It gives you all of your folders, all of your breakdowns, all that good stuff. Print on document, what this does is this changes it to a little bit like the Riddler icon. What this does is this treats it as an option. So I'll go ahead and just regenerate this so you can see it. So I'll change this other one to print on document, and then I'll generate this quote. So it counts it as an option, and I'll show you how that looks in a couple seconds here. If we scroll down a little bit more, okay. So what that'll do is that breaks out our investment into that one $7,700 folder. And oops, did I pass it? Sure did. If I scroll down, it breaks it out into an option. So some of the things that I've seen on the support side of things, and also now in my newer role, is that a lot of the times people will say, when I'm working with a customer, I send them 3 different quotes with 3 different folders in it with 3 different prices, and I say, hey, let me know which ones you want to win. When I hear that, I kind of cringe a little bit because I'm saying, you guys can just do it this way and save yourself so much time. Um, and this formatting is really kind of the default. You can change this to say however you want it. This requires some document work. This will break it out to say these are your options. So we have clients that will say our base proposal is this amount of money, and then here's your add-ons, your options, so to speak, that you can add on at any given point. And then what's nice about this is we have some of our customers, they'll put like an initial, like an underscore here to say, sign off on what packages you want. And then what they'll do is look at the proposal, they'll go back to their quote, and they'll say, okay, the customer said, they want the CCTV package, or maybe they didn't. If they did, you click on this print on document, change it to outright sale, and it rolls that price back into the what's it called, into the actual proposal itself. So that's a really nice feature that I would say take advantage of it. If you're seeing it and you're doing a print on document and it's not really splitting it out properly, then there's a good chance that your document might just need that initial work. That's completely free of charge. On the newer deployments, we typically will have that as a baseline feature, but some of the older documents might not have that. So if you're doing this in real time and you're saying, you know what, I'm trying to click on print on document, it's not working, send me an email, let me know, or drop a message, and we can go ahead and funnel that over to the documents team and get that looked at for you guys. The last option is called exclude from sale. So what this will do is, let's say the customer turns around to you and says, you know what, I like the CCTV, but I don't really need it. You can click on this third option called exclude from sale. I'll turn the folder to this little reddish color. If I were to go back to this proposal and generate it, it's showing the same line. It will basically generate the proposal with just that one line item. So you'll see there's no options, there's no second folder, it's just that one option there. So you have that customization at a baseline level. Let me just see something here. Sorry, this is driving me nuts having that all in one line. But yeah, so it'll cause that to split it out that way. So you have those 3 options there, and they're fully up to you however you want to treat them. There you go, much better. So that gives you a nice little tip and trick there to move forward with that. Um, Lastly, well, two more quick things here, and then I'll turn it over for you guys if you have any questions and things like that. Defaults. So one of the checkboxes that we were going to talk about today was how to configure your default pages. So let's say you're going along with everything that I'm showing you today. You made your scope of work, your cover letter, all that good stuff. If you go into Tools, and the very last option, My Settings, and then you go into the Documents tab, in here, you'll see all of your defaults. So if you want to go ahead and say, like, I made my cover letter, I made my scope of work, you can select your defaults. And this is also your default core document. So when I was mentioning earlier, if you're adding your new pro package or your revision and you're seeing default or a couple different options, and you're not entirely sure, talk to your system admin about that first and foremost to get the exact, the correct template that you have. But then once you have that template, go ahead and select it from the dropdown. It'll save you a lot of time, a lot of headache moving forward. And you'll always know that moving forward, you'll have the right document template type. Beyond that, you select your cover letter, your scope, and then if you have the default terms and conditions that aren't hard coded in, feel free to go ahead and select them here. And what's nice about this, every job moving forward, you'll have all of these defaults pre-populated. You don't have to worry about selecting them. The system is smart enough to say, these are, these are Johnny's default options that will always be populated, and we're good to go. Also, if you use Quote Anywhere, this is compatible both ways as well. So if you have your default cover letter, scope of work, all that stuff plugged into WeEstimate, the system will look at your profile and say, okay, yep, he has these things set up for him. These are now carrying over to Quote Anywhere as well. So if you're utilizing both WeEstimate and Quote Anywhere for your quote generation and proposals, these defaults carry over both ways, which is really, really cool. Awesome. And then lastly, guys, and then I'll let you guys go a little early here, is one of the last things I wanted to show is how to migrate your quotes over from a previous state from a longer time ago. So I had mentioned in the beginning of the webinar that I want to utilize some older proposals. So kind of using the same example as I did within this job. This job, let's say you were working on this one particular quote months ago, you had sent it out to the customer, they came back to you and said they don't have the funding for it, whatever it may be. This quote, let's say you sent out to the customer and it's great, but a new customer came to you and said, hey, I want to have a similar setup as this one, similar breakout, or maybe it's like a chain, maybe it's like a same store, whatever it may be. If you right click and you click on copy, I'm sure a lot of you know about the copy and paste functionality. But if you right click on copy, right click paste under jobs, or wherever you want to paste it, you have the ability to copy the estimate itself. But with this, and this is in UDOR 6.8, is you have the ability to copy over your documents. So if you have a proposal already created, your quote package, if you have any contracts that are in place, scope of work, cover letter, anything custom like that, you just select the copy document, click on continue, and it will then copy over that proposal with all that information. So next time you were to access that quote, all the way down here, you were to go into your scope of work, whatever it may be, all that information will be rolled in, as well as making an exact copy of that previous quote. So it's a really, really nice feature that gives you kind of that additional flexibility to say, I can copy the quote, but I can also bring over the documents. And that's relatively newish. I would say that came out with our 6.8 version, which is probably about a year and a half old at this point. But it's a nice little feature, nice little tool that I wanted to mention. Awesome, guys. So we talked about how to copy existing quotes, utilizing the document editor, inserting images and tables, configuring the default selections, as well as talking about estimate options, things along those lines. That was really all I had from my end, guys. Was there any questions or anything that you had for me? So there was a hand raised. If you want to go ahead and type your question right into the chat, that would be great. I'd be more than happy to answer it. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to type them in, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. So a question that came in, how do you make the items in the estimate show in order on the proposal? It's a great question. So, oops, let me go ahead and just close out of that. Open this guy up. So for your order, you have a couple different things you can do. So within your estimate, if you were to have, let's see if I have multiple parts in any of these. If you were to select a folder, you can go select the parts, and then over here, you're going to have this little black arrow. If you drag and drop this around, this will basically rearrange the parts to the order that you want them to be in. So you can do it that way. You can also drag them around. There's a position here as well. You can enter. You can free enter in, 1, 2, 3, 4 in this position column. I like this way better. I think it's just easier. So you can just click and drag this arrow and move them around. That gives you your order. That rearranges them on the quote, and then also rearranges them on the actual job itself. Um, just know though that it might this order down here is how you added them into the job, but the position is how they will appear on the actual quote itself. And this list right here, this position like 2 1 matches this right here. So that's how I would say if you want to rearrange it, do it that way. Any other questions, guys? So I may have missed it, but can you show me where to change a deposit amount? Yeah, absolutely. So you can do one of two things. So it really depends on where and how your system is set up. So if I were to right click here, there's going to be a deposit button. I can free type a deposit if I wanted to. So I can say leave a deposit of $2,500. The system will calculate it. I'll say 26%. From a document standpoint, if you don't have that configured, generally speaking, most proposals will have a deposit section at the bottom. So you can say, deposit 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. I would say on the actual proposal document, this on the actual job itself, this generally isn't used all that much. This document, this deposit amount, but some of our documents have it that way, where the system will look to see, do you have a deposit physically attached to the job? If you do, we'll utilize that amount, or you can go into your actual proposal and select the deposit amount from here. So I would just say talk internally to see how usually generally speaking the admin would know offhand. If not, we can always submit a ticket, let us know, we can figure that out for you. But generally speaking, it's its own dedicated deposit amount, and it's hard to kind of just code it in to say I have 20% or 40% or 50% down. How do you add pictures to parts and show them on the proposal? So that is uh, it's a little tricky. It depends really necessarily on how you want to go about doing it. The system itself has the ability to attach pictures to parts. So within Parts Editor, let me just go ahead and type in camera here. I can spell. So we have the ability to include pictures here. Now, on the actual proposal itself, you can take from this inventory. However, if I this is something that I would have to double check with the documents team. I know this is something that they wanted to implement to say, here's a picture, load this in, and it'll show on the proposal document. I'll double check with them for you, James. I have your email. I can always contact you back and let you know. But generally speaking, what a lot of our users will do to cut back on document size is they will include a hyperlink in the cut sheet. So a lot of the times they'll say, I'm going to put together a PDF and have cut sheet for the actual document itself. The cut sheet will contain pictures, info, things that can't easily display on the proposal document, but I want to have in a viable area. So I would say, I'll double check for you to see if those pictures can be put in line. I don't think they can, but I'll double check for you. But for right now, if you want to load your pictures in, I would just say use a cut sheet, put them on as PDF, then load them in. Usually speaking, what people will do is they'll have like a PDF and then like a hyperlink, plug it into the cut sheet. The cut sheet will show on the document, and the users can go in and access the URL there through there. Where did you right click for the deposit? No worries at all. No worries at all. So to right click the deposit, it's up here in this little blue interface, and then deposit, and that gives you your amount up here. So it's going to give you populate this little deposit section. Okay, awesome guys. Any last questions here before I go ahead and wrap everything up? Okay, awesome. Thank you everybody for joining us today. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully you feel a little more comfortable with our document editor and creating your proposals. So if you need to refer back to this webinar at any given point, it's going to be emailed to everybody attending here and also be posted on our website here shortly. So mark your calendars. So upcoming, we have on the admin side, best practices for onboarding and offboarding users. That's on June 11th. On the sales side of things, we have WeEstimate closing sales using the eSend integration. That's on June 18th. Thanks again for joining us today. Really do appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. Take care, everybody.